Hello, everyone, and welcome into today's episode. I want to thank you so much for joining in. And I decided to take a challenge today, and that is to avoid a topic that a lot of jewelry collectors like to avoid because there's conflicting information online, and boy, oh boy, it sometimes gets very difficult to navigate. You might be asking yourself, why is this video important? Well, the reason why is the value of plastics and the value of plastic jewelry and also plastic items such as dresser jars and ring boxes, prayer beads, Bakelite bracelets by the bunch, and a whole tray of incredible Bakelite gaming dice. Yes, I've been at this 31 years of constant buying and reselling. Check out how big this one is. I sold one very similar to this very recently for over $600 for one Bakelite game dice. $600 for one Bakelite game dice. That's why you want to stay tuned to today's episode. And I would like to show you, also in a coming video, that is Andy Warhol's Bakelite clock. It is right off of Andy Warhol's desk, and it was sold through Sotheby's in the 1980s. And yes, I purchased it from the auction, and it was actually Andy Warhol's Bakelite clock. Yeah, wait till you see how much this sold for. In a grouping of 3 pieces, in the 80s, it sold for $1,540. I also own 2 of Andy Warhol's cookie jars, and I also own 3 of his plastic bracelets out of his collection. So stay tuned for that video coming up very, very soon. And inside of my collection, in all of the holdings I have between jewelry and fine art, lamps and lighting, bronzes, linens, vintage and antique clothing buttons, I have very important collections within my greater collection. So stay tuned for some of those very interesting collections. Also, so today we're going to cover the difference between Bakelite, Faturan, and CATALIN. So we're going to kind of address that. Then we're also going to compare that to amber. Okay, so stay tuned. You won't want to go anywhere because I'm going to help you with identifications that, again, 99.999% of resellers and collectors have decided to stay away from because there's so much conflicting information both amongst the collecting world and also on the internet. So I'm here to challenge, well, I guess I could say the Facebook groups to come for me so I can correct them. All right, here we go. So, Bakelite rod stock. These came in from an area auction. And why I show you these is these are very large Bakelite rods that were unused and were in a storage unit. And because I was savvy and smart, I decided to purchase these. Now, I'm not going to make a comment on how much. Let me show you another one. I'm not going to make a comment on how much I paid for the unit. But what I will say is I sold one of these rods for over $3,000. Listen here, close. I sold one plastic rod, quote, plastic, for over $3,000. That is totally true. Also on my eBay, many people have seen it. They said you also sold one for $1,500. And I would say, yes, I did, because my eBay page is public. You know, it's public domain, it's public information. And I've been a reseller on eBay since 1997, 98. This was one of my favorite ones. This is, okay, so all 3 of these so far are actually considered Bakelite, but they are CATALIN because of their vibrant colors and their bold swirls. Technically, they are Bakelite in terms of plastic. They are the brand name CATALIN. And it is, so you understand, Bakelite and CATALIN are basically the same phenolic or phenyl formaldehyde resin or plastic, if you will. Bakelite was invented by Leo Bakelin, I believe in 1907, 1909. I go with the earlier date just because that's my gut feeling on it after 30 years of research. But he was a Belgian-born chemist. And check out the swirl and how bold this is. So these were cast. So these rods were actually cast, and then they were hardened into a process to make this a hard plastic. Bakelite takes a very high polish and has a gorgeous luster when it is hand polished. Also today, the elephant in the room, my Bakelite ring that I constructed out of a broken poker chip and solid sterling silver, very op art. And 2 plastic bracelets. Put down in the comment section below, which one is the Bakelite one? The one with the dots on it or the one carved? Let me know down in the comment section below. One is a fake and one is genuine, and I hope I remember to tell you before the end of the video which is which. On such a rod stock on the orange, I sold one of these. I bought 6 of these from the storage unit. I think I sold 2 for $600, and then I sold 2 for $750 because they were slightly wider than this, slightly larger circumference. This one I did cut a section off, so I sawed this off, and I decided to fabricate a ring out of it. So here is where people say, shows your creative process. Look how I sawed off that portion of that Bakelite, and then I drilled a hole here, then I sanded it down, then I made the contour to fit the finger, and look at that for a Bakelite ring. Absolutely amazing. It's like permanent sunshine. It's like absolute permanent sunshine. You know what I'm gonna do for this video? I'm gonna take off my diamonds. You know it's a heck of a good day when I say I'm gonna ditch my diamonds for a giant Bakelite ring. Yes, do you see why Bakelite was used for jewelry? Constantly happy. I made this ring in 2005. I did make 2 other versions of this, one in lime green and one in a blue. And I sold those 2 rings to 2 very high-end collectors of extremely beautiful luxury goods and designer goods. And I sold them for $350 a piece. So there is huge money in plastics. Now, 2 of the more exotic rods. The marbleized blue is a very difficult color to find in Bakelite. Again, look at where that was poured in and see how that raw edge is at the top because this was poured into a tube. And then to get that swirl, secondary color was poured in, likely a cream color. And then sometimes it's green, but this one is cream. And then it was stirred with like a long rod to then drag that color all the way through this and kind of move that modeling all the way through that rod. This size, I think, is just at, I think this is a 1-inch rod or 1 1/8 inch rod. I sold one of these. I sold one of these for $1,200, and that's what that one went for. And I think I have a total of 5 of these. I had a total of 5, now I'm down to 4. There we go. And in the storage unit, it was amazing because some of these storage unit people, I won't say anything more, I'll just say, you know, you can only use Google Lens so much. That's all I'll say. Look at this one, and my knowledge came from years in the business, from 30 years of experience. See how that one was poured in the top here and then cast down? So this is the one, I sold one slightly wider than this for over $3,000. Look at that rich red color and that amazing trail of that creamy, beautiful cream color that runs through that red. Absolutely incredible. I think I only have 3 of these left. This size would probably sell between $1,800 and $1,800 to $2,200. I'm not exactly sure what the consumers are doing with these when I sell them. I'm pretty certain they are turning them into jewelry and selling it for an absolute fortune. There is a designer out there now who's contemporary. Just caught out of the corner of my eye a few listings that he is actually doing very complex inlay of bracelets and then setting them with diamonds, 18 karat gold, platinum, and these beautiful constructions of Bakelite and fine gemstone jewelry. And they're thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And you can see why once you view them. Not sure on the artist's name. If I knew it, I would drop it right here, but I'm not exactly sure. So there is a tremendous amount of money in sometimes things that are discarded or that were never used. This is all old factory stock that was never turned into jewelry. Now you might ask yourself, what would they use these for? Well, that's a really good question. I have partial answer today. Oh, 2 more that I did. So this was the random dot one that I created as well. And I don't know if there's anyone in the world that's now able to do random dots in Bakelite. I don't want to say I'm the only one, but I think I'm one of 2 or one of 3 people now. And yeah, that's a Bakelite random dot. And I did it in reminiscent of the random dot bracelets. And these I've covered before, worth many thousands of dollars for the random dots and the bow ties. I'll be bringing these back to another video, so don't you worry about that. I got you covered there. But yeah, I constructed that one, and isn't that amazing that I kind of, again, surpassed the material. I kind of elevated plastic into wearable sculpture and into wearable art, and that says, hello, I am high fashion from the center of the arts and culture of the United States in a cornfield in Ohio. That is total sarcasm. So I love Ohio. I wouldn't trade it for the world. This is one I never finished. So I actually have it's not the same color as this. It's like a smoky gray rod, and this is lime green, and this is definitely a gray that is oxidized. This one I started, and you can see the process of kind of carving that down from the rod stock and then working this down. I gave up on it because it was simply too tall. It was very clumsy. Also, I didn't love the color of it. I might eventually finish this one. I would cut it down more around here, or I would shape this. What I was going to go for is going in here and carving all of these out in like a kind of like an open work netting. And then I would have like this open work dome of the most smoky gray, gorgeous Bakelite. And, but then I stopped. Let me know in the comment section below, should I continue on this, or should I leave it in my estate and let another artist take over my legacy when I pass? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, so you ask yourself, what are the tubes used for? Well, these are two little gavels, and as you know, I went to auctioneer school, so these are two little Bakelite or CATALIN gavels, and you can see that this top is then lathed down. But you can see that that is the same. Ooh, I think a mosquito just nipped my leg. So let's see here. You can see that that's the same diameter. And then they turned and laid this down. So that's the head of a gavel. And this is, in fact, Bakelite and technically CATALIN. So yes, absolutely. They made gavel heads and also the handle. You have to have rod stock to turn that elegant handle, right? Same thing on this miniature version. Same thing here. Same exact process. Lathed down and turned. Also, they would have to start with a tube of Bakelite to do the dresser jars. Look at the carving on that one. Of my dresser jars, I now have, and look at the translucency of the material. Now, here's why I should talk about amber. Doesn't this look like it's carved out of amber? It absolutely looks the same color, the same modeling, the same marbleized kind of pattern of amber. So when you look at gem amber, which is this, look at the swirl in gem amber out of the ground, which is the tree resin. So check that out for a genuine piece of Baltic amber in a wonderful modernist brooch. Look at that next to this. Very similar in terms of color saturation. I have a brooch that looks exactly like this jar, but this is amber and this is Bakelite. A few different ways to tell the difference. You can see the color variance. You can see the polish and the luster is slightly different. Also, when you're out in the field, I always recommend taking Simichrome, which is the polish right here, off camera before I started, so I wouldn't delay. I did a little test on a tiny piece of paper towel. Look at that yellow color. Do you see that dark kind of mustard yellow or like a nicotine yellow? It's very saturated yellow. Simichrome starts off a very pale pink. It starts off extremely pale. So I guess I could do this on camera for all of you. Oh, look, I have Simichrome polish on my hand. So it starts off a pale pink. Let me show you, and I'll show you on this other side. And then this is how you test for Bakelite. I've shown you so many times live, and I did 2 pre-recorded videos. So look at that little dollop of pale pink. You don't need much. That's actually too much for the test, but it's fine for a demo. So a tiny little bit. Do not use more than that to test. Always test on the bottom of something, or on the back of a brooch, or on the inside of a bracelet. Never test on the outside surface where we will see that. So what will happen with this, and I hope it happens, so I don't have to re-record, is when you rub this on here, that will turn a very kind of, that light pink will turn a mustard yellow, and it did. See that kind of mustard yellow color? A little bit of dirt on there as well, but it turns a very mustard yellow color, so that pale pink goes extremely mustard yellow. Now go in there and take the rest of the paper towel and wipe that off of there. So when you would test this jar, you would then know, okay, that is not amber, that is Bakelite. This brooch would not test. The simichrome would stay pink, or it would turn like just a brown or a gray because of the dirt on the surface of the brooch. But what you're testing is the oxidation of the surface of Bakelite. That's what you're actually physically testing. And some of that is coming off onto the paper towel. You could do it with a Q-tip, and you can also use 409 cleaner. People say there's a smell test, and I always say to people, all plastics, oh, the squirrels are going crazy again. Do you hear them? Oh, they're chasing each other like crazy over there. Oh, you should see them. I get so distracted by nature. You all know that. So this one, Bakelite, and see how it looks like amber. Same color, totally different. Plastic and tree resin. Check it out. Jeremy got me this little dog pin for Christmas last year. So absolutely love that. Get this out of the way. You might ask yourself, why does Bakelite jewelry matter so much? Well, a multitude of reasons. Some designs were infrequently made and made by famous people. This is, listen to them. Oh, you can tell fall is in the air. They are getting ready for winter. They are gathering the acorns out of my oak tree. There they go. Yep, they just went in the neighbor's yard. Look at the Martha Sleeper matchstick necklace. And you know I paid thousands for this one. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars for this necklace. Looks like lit match cigarettes and matchsticks. Look at those tiny little matchsticks. It's about desirability. It's about rarity. It's about whimsy. Bakelite jewelry has always been so different and so fun from anything we've ever seen before it and after it. Just amazing. Now, out on the desk. I have to be honest, and before I started to hit the record button, my heart wasn't in this video today. It just wasn't in it. So I hope I've given you enough helpful information. And of course, I should talk more about values. So if you want to talk more values, leave that in the comment section down below, and I'll cover that in the future videos. So when we talk about the difference of Bakelite, Faturan, and CATALIN, it gets a little complex. I'm going to show you at least, let's talk about specifically Faturan and Bakelite first. So these beads are known right now, currently today, to be a great example of Faturan. So Faturan is a very similar resin to the brand of Bakelite, but it was Eastern Mediterranean. It was Egypt, Turkey, mostly used for prayer beads, mostly used for beads. So when we talk about this, it's very similar to Bakelite, but some of the resin was mixed with powdered amber or other materials such as dyes or even incense. So that's the basic construction of Faturan as of today, 2025. Now, that information can change because we have to remember in the history of jewelry, as we learn more, we're able to give more information, but so many people will avoid this information because they're not exactly sure. We're not all exactly sure, but these are a classic example of Faturan. Do you see how these look like genuine amber? There's a color variance. There's a slight marbleization of the interior patterning of these. They sure do look like amber, don't they? They're extremely, extremely heavy. If these were amber, they would be very lightweight. Even though they're very large, they would still be incredibly lightweight. One of the telltale signs between Faturan and amber is the weight. These would be extremely lightweight, even at this size if they were amber. These are very heavy. They are very dense. Also, the finish. Do you see how they're kind of matte finished? They don't have a high luster. You can see they're kind of chalky. The finish isn't warm and has an oxidation and a beautiful polish. Not saying that some amber isn't matte finished, because we know that it is, but check the two out side by side. So we have Faturan and then amber. Look at the finish on that. Oh, I sure hope the lighting's okay today. I know I'm in the shade right now, but I sure hope the lighting is okay, because I don't want to re-record this. Okay, so that's your classic example and usually used in prayer beads. This necklace I found in Columbus, Ohio, and it was, I think, $10 or $15. Such a necklace like this now would be several $100s. Sometimes people ask like $1,000 and over. It's just not true. It's just not happening. It's simply not happening. And I know that from experience, but I would say at least several $100s for that version. Now, prayer beads. So there are two versions that are Bakelite out on the table, and I have many more strands of prayer beads. I do have two strands of Faturan, but I did not bring them to the video. Bakelite. So we have this strand of Bakelite prayer beads. And again, years ago, with the huge tassel on the bottom, again, years ago, such things were selling very, very reasonable. Sometimes they'll have that kind of almost gourd-shaped bead at the bottom. And then look at the marbleization of the surface here. Strung on cord, really well done. These are solid Bakelite. Or if you wanted to call them CATALIN, we could totally take that as well. So check this out. And these I tested off camera with that paper towel. And this is what turned the paper towel very, very bright yellow. Now, even when the color is different, don't think you're testing the yellow of the plastic, because you're not. This strand right here, the marbleized bluish green on yellow, this also tested positive for Bakelite. So these are also Bakelite prayer beads. Now, years ago, these weren't selling very well. I think I bought each strand of these for very little, $10 or $20, maybe $30 at the most. Now these are several $100s today. So there is a great amount of money in Bakelite prayer beads. And then on the opposite side of that, these are just resin or acrylic. These, they sure look like Faturan, but they're absolutely not. I don't think they are, because they are too lustrous. They have a very dense surface, and the color just isn't right. However, someone could classify these as Faturan, and as of right now, I don't know how to tell you to test for Faturan. I don't have a foolproof test for it. So you have to remember that as well. I think there are some tests that people are talking about now, but I don't think there's a foolproof test for that as of right now. These definitely look like Bakelite. They're the right luster, they're the right color. I got all of these, I got all of the tassels stuck under the Bakelite rods off camera. So thanks for being patient with me. I was so distracted, I thought, I'm gonna pull the tassel off that necklace. But they all have their original tassel. And these were tourist trade items brought back. Look at how great the color is, though, for those. Again, someone could advertise these online as Faturan. I'm not comfortable with it right now. Maybe eventually I'll be more comfortable with that, and I can say that for sure, but I'm not comfortable right now. That's where I've always been different in my presentations that I've given at both museums and public institutions, investment groups, libraries, historical societies, Gemological Institute of America. But when I go in to do that, I make sure that I have all my information really 100% correct before I start spouting things out and start lecturing people, on materials that I'm not sure of. So we always say, I'm not sure. We'll get to that eventually. But I'm sure of this one, and I'm sure of this one, and I'm sure of this one. So there you go for a little bit of a variance. There is quite a bit of variance in values. If these were amber this size, you know that they're $1,500, $1,800, $2,000, $2,500. They're way up there. Just in Faturan, like I said, a couple $100s. So there is a big difference. And look at the variance of color. But again, this is just plastic. This is just simply plastic. That's all there is to it. And those cherry ones, people would say, well, those are cherry amber. And I'd say, no, they're not. No, they're not. If I say they're not, they're not. It's just the way it is, because if I thought that those were cherry amber, I would have taken them out and said, you guys think these are cherry amber? Nope. Nope. The universal surface that, I don't even know how to describe it right. I just say it's by touch, it's by feel, it's by intuition. It's never led me astray. And I shouldn't have said it's not because I said it's not, but after all, I just said they aren't. So please don't say it and say, I'm sure those are cherry amber. No, if I thought so, I would have said. But there is a big difference. So you know what I'm going to have to do now? I'm going to have to bring these back on, and I'm going to have to show you these Faturan beads next to cherry amber beads. And then we're going to have to do some tests, and I'm going to have to show you the difference. And we're going to have to talk about that. You want to talk about a saltwater test, about floating amber? Do you want to talk about the static test? Do you want to talk about the book on amber I read from cover to cover that's 380 pages? Let's do it. Let's totally talk about it. But when the Gemological Institute of America has you come in, and you're not an alumni to do a presentation, I'll just say my information is advanced. That's all. And it's different than everybody else's, you know? So there's never a fight in jewelry, and I keep saying that to everyone. This $3.50 I spent years ago on Simichrome polish, this 50 cents has made me tens of thousands of dollars on Bakelite jewelry and Bakelite accessories. There's that. Just the Bakelite dice is left. That's all we have to talk about, and I mentioned before. And look at all the game pieces. Now this is one tray of 10. Just don't tell Jeremy. This is one tray of 10. Do you see how big this is? I don't think you understand how big some of these dice are. The bigger the dice, the bigger the price. That's totally true. Who would have thought a game dice that I bought at Goodwill years ago for, I think this was 50 cents. Who would have thought that it would have been worth several $100s? But now it is. If you get it in the cherry color, such as this, there are many, many more hundreds of dollars. 600, 800, 1,000. I saw Bakelite dice sell at an auction facility that I was working at. I saw it sell for $1,100. $1,100 for a plastic dice, or a plastic die, I guess you could say. Look at how cool these are, though. And then the backgammon game pieces in cherry red and that mottled yellow. I have loved Bakelite game dice, and look how big this one is. I don't know if you understand how giant it is. And look at that. The king, the queen, the hearts, the jack, and the joker's not on here. The joker's holding it. So the joker is holding the dice. I think that does it for today. I got you almost 27 minutes of information. I feel like I left out a whole bunch of information on values, but again, I try and cover it as much as I possibly can. Oh, the Bakelite dresser jars, now these are, used to be $300 to $400. Now these are down to about $185 to $225. Look at the powder puff on the inside of this. That beautiful powder puff with that bone handle down in that powder box. Fantastic colors of Bakelite, wonderful construction. It's just incredibly a happy plastic. That's all there is to it. If you notice the bittersweet little compote and you love L.A. Smith bittersweet, please go over to that video because I worked really hard on that one as well. It takes a long time to set these videos up because it takes a tremendous amount of time and effort to go through the collections and gather up the pieces that make sense to put together. I don't want to really ever repeat pieces, so I try my best to always bring fresh and new information to the channel. Again, basic differences between Bakelite, Faturan, and CATALIN. And then we could get into so many other plastics and so many other materials. I just appreciate you allowing me your time, your attention, and your kindness goes a long way in my world. And I just want to say how grateful I am to all of you. I hope this helps you out in your journeys. I hope this helps out in thrifting, going to auctions, going to estate sales. And that means that it's dark out because my motion light just turned on. And look at that. I wish it was on the whole time because now look at the plastic. So just in the nick of time. I so appreciate your time and your attention. Like I said earlier, you're a blessing to me and my channel. Please share me out with someone else that you think would love my channel. Please continue to hit that subscribe button. And it is time to go. I'm struggling for words. Take good care of yourselves. I love you because I do.